WGNS.com. Some exclusions apply.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning. This is Bill Krause, a Thursday morning WGNS Roundtable, and we have a gentleman who was with us almost, I have to say, close to 2 years ago when we first began the Roundtable, a phenomenal manager, a great student, and a wonderful gentleman, Mr. Victor Lay, who's the town administrator of the town of Nolensville. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning. Very glad to be here with you.
Yes, and we always initially like to find out about our guests, even though you did share your biography 2 years ago, but we trust we have a lot of new listeners and those that may have not remembered. So you were born where, and kind of give us a little journey of the Victor Lay life.
Well, I was born in Alabama, so don't hold that against me.
No, not
I didn't
at all.
stay there long. My family moved to our to the family farm in Waynesboro, Tennessee, back in 1969, and I grew up there. Graduated high school in Waynesboro, went to Memphis State at the time, got an engineering degree,
Right.
civil engineering, and moved to Chicago.
What drew you to Chicago? I mean, somebody from the sweet little town of Waynesboro heading
There
up
is
to the big
not
city.
anyone from the sweet little town of Waynesboro in Chicago. You are right. I got an opportunity to do traffic engineering, which is what I enjoyed and what I kind of specialized in college. Had an opportunity to go there, took it, and spent 5 years doing traffic engineering before one of my high school friends called me, who had been elected to the city council in Waynesboro.
Wow.
And said, how about coming home and being our city manager? And I had no idea what that was, but I also knew that we were about to have our first child, and it was a good opportunity to move
Return to the homestead.
get closer to family, and so a long process short. I ended up starting that in 1995.
How many traffic signals were at the time in Waynesboro?
At the time, there was 0.
Oh, so they needed traffic engineering experience for a zero traffic signal community. Great.
Right. And so...
How many signals were there when you left?
1.
Well, that's 100% growth. That's
There we
good.
go.
That's good.
That's right. So I spent almost 15 years as the city manager in Waynesboro. Ended up, actually, that's where I met you, was my last couple of years there. I was getting my master's degree in public administration from TSU.
And what impressed me well above just your academic excellence was I don't think you ever missed a class. We met twice a week.
Twice a
and
week.
you drove from Waynesboro to Nashville to TSU.
About 100 miles one way.
And you weren't just on interstates, you were on the little back roads.
That's right.
And you always were there right on time in class, and you stayed the full 3 hours of class. And, you know, I always remembered that. That wasn't only character and academic commitment. It really said something about you, that you take on a project, you take on an objective, you take on a goal, and you follow through with it and follow through with it with excellence.
Well, I appreciate that. That program was very, very beneficial to me. I truly enjoyed it, and as we were talking earlier, part of the enjoyment of it was just the energy of working with students who had just come in from getting their bachelor's. Of course, I was
You were the old
guy.
timer.
I was the old guy in the classroom, and already had 15 plus years of experience in working, and maybe 20 years of experience in the whole working field. But really got energized with the students and their eagerness to do things and what all. So it was a
And
great
they all were
experience.
basically on the entry level of public administration.
That's correct.
Many of them with local governments, a lot of them with state governments, the state government and so forth. So they were getting their feet wet in their government service, as well as their brains developed through the experiences that you shared in class.
It was a very good experience. So I got my master's degree, and upon getting that, the city of Spring Hill offered a position, and I moved from Waynesboro, a population of about 2,300, to the city of Spring Hill, population of about 29,000.
What was the status when you came of Saturn at that point?
Obviously, Saturn had been well established. They came in the 90s.
90s, correct.
I think that actually in 1988 is when they first started coming into the community. So they had been well established. That was right in a period of time where the Saturn brand was actually being shifted. They had already started making more of the other GM products by that time. And then right in that same time frame, which was around the 2009, the fall of 2009, February of 2009, when I had started with them, the GM's economy had started to kind of pull back, and they had actually started doing some layoffs. So right about the time I was getting there, GM was starting to pull back the workforce somewhat, but that didn't last too long.
Correct.
And they came back and really invested highly into the community, and have continued to invest into the community.
And you were in Spring Hill how long?
About 12 years.
12 years, right. And then about 3 years ago, plus or minus, you came into the east, into Nolensville.
Into Nolensville, that's right. Nolensville recruited me out of Spring Hill to come up. They realized that they were going to grow. And while they did not want to become Spring Hill, they wanted someone who had worked through all of that growth, could manage through it. And that was one of the things that they asked of me when I began with them, was to help them develop a plan that would manage their growth to something that they would prefer to see. And so coming in, we started putting a lot of planning studies together that ultimately has now included a new zoning code, which is pretty restrictive, but it also is meant to be restrictive in that it would limit population. And they didn't want to grow to the point that they lost their small town feel. And Nolensville is very unique in that having that really small town feel, even though it's got a population of almost 17,000, 16,837, I
Maybe
think
it was
is
38 or 36.
Something like, is what our official number is. We actually just completed a special census to get that. But when you go there and you participate in any of the events, you really get this sense that it's a small town.
Yep.
And part of that is it only has one high school that serves the whole community.
And it's a relatively new high school, so
It is. And I have never seen a crowd of residents turn out and support a high school homecoming parade the way that Nolensville does. It's very incredible, and you when you're there amid the group, it feels like what I call Rockwell moments.
Yep.
And if you think the old Norman Rockwell paintings of the old of how a family and how a small town should be, that's the way that some of these events really feel in Nolensville. And it's very, very cool.
Wasn't one of the huge events the Little League Championship?
Oh, absolutely.
The World Championship?
Yeah. The Nolensville Little League team has been to the championships 3 times now.
Wow.
And has just, they've been amazing to watch. Over the course of this year, there's a number of other Nolensville teams that from flag football to some little kids in the Little League side that have done extremely well, won districts, and the flag football was playing on ESPN the other night, where they were in the national tournament. So we'll be honoring those youth here in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. But the interesting question is, it's funny how things go around in a circle, what starts, what ends. If your original educational emphasis was traffic engineering, and you today, 2024, look at Nolensville Road, what do you What do you say to the town council, or you say to the residents, or you say to people like me who pass through your beautiful city on a weekly basis? What do you say about traffic on Nolensville Road and handling? Do you widen it to 6 lanes and knock every building down, or?
So the short answer is don't drive through at rush hour.
Okay.
Come through about midnight and you'll be fine.
Yes.
That's a really interesting question that you've relayed, because if you widen the road, even if you put in a 5-lane roadway, that changes the character of the town.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the quaintness that is Nolensville today, especially in that historic district area.
Sure.
And first of all, in the historic district area, you couldn't even get 5 lanes wide.
Correct. Unless
But-
you took everything down.
Unless you took the what's there down, which is,
Historic.
and so you really wouldn't want to do that. But even further north, if you were to change that to a 5-lane section, let's say at Sunset Road and went north, you change the character of the town
Sure.
at that point. And so we've had some very significant discussions among the elected officials about, well, what is it that we really want? Now, ultimately, it's TDOT's road, and TDOT can do whatever it is that TDOT wants to do. Right now, the widening of Nolensville Road in any form
Sure.
is not on TDOT's long-range plan, other than a note that says, oh, and Nolensville Road should get widened too. Now, they have some concept drawings even further north, like from Kidd Road north, that show it being a 5-lane roadway, and maybe at some point that does. But the discussion we've had locally is that what we would prefer to see is that we at least have it as a 3-lane with a continuous center turn lane all the way through. So one of the real problem areas is when you pull up and you're wanting to make a left turn and there's not a left turn
Right, and then it blocks
lane,
everybody.
and then you block everybody up.
Sure.
And then it just gives you a safe place to get out in order to merge into the other lane if you're trying to turn left or something like that. So that's our number one goal. We've actually, even though TDOT's not funded anything, we've been proactively going out and doing the preliminary engineering associated with that. We have not yet acquired any necessary right-of-way, but we've been trying to go through the steps to show TDOT what that would look like and what would have to be acquired, and try to demonstrate to them that we want to be a partner.
Sure.
We may not have the funds to actually fund the construction, but we want to get it to the point that TDOT would recognize this is important.
Sure.
And
Had there
so
been discussion about a bypass?
there has been discussion about a bypass back in early 2000s, around 2005, 2006. There was a lot of discussion about that. TDOT was conducting that study, and along the same time, the first major subdivision called Bent Creek was coming in also to get approved. And TDOT had 2 or 3 different iterations of where that road was going to go. I don't know what all the town knew and when they knew what TDOT's preferences were, but right about the same time that TDOT was selecting a particular path,
Wow.
the city was approving a subdivision
Right in the
that
middle?
had 6 homes right in the middle of that path. And so that
Talk about intergovernmental communications.
that pretty much stalled
Sure.
the idea of the bypass, because TDOT wasn't going to turn around and try to acquire 6 new homes.
Wow.
When they had plenty of other things to go spend their money on. And so that area, while that area still is reserved for a bypass, the fact is that the land's now been conveyed over to the HOA, who would really prefer to see it as a greenway.
Oh, absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
a linear park versus a 5-lane road.
Well, when I think of bypass, I think in Franklin of Mark Hatcher.
Oh, yeah,
And,
the
you know, the
McHatcher
bypass
Parkway all the way around, yeah.
around downtown. I don't know the status of it. And when we had the mayor of Laverne on a few months ago, the discussion of 6,000 homes planned west of Laverne, and I begin to think of the traffic impact of vehicles leaving a 6,000 home community heading west right into the middle of Nolensville.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and I haven't looked at what all they have approved over there, but on the north side of Nolensville, inside the town limits, there are 2 developments, and between those 2, there are close to 1,200 homes, I guess, something
That
like
still is a traffic generator.
right along Kidd Road. One of those, which is Southern Land, if you're familiar with
Sure.
them and their developments down in Franklin,
Right.
the West Haven development in Franklin, they're building something similar to that right off of Kidd Road in Nolensville, northeast corner of Nolensville. Right beside it's another development that was a Goodall development. It's now they've sold their interest out to Beazer, and Beazer will be taking it over. It's not yet started in any kind of construction, but between the 2, there's roughly 1,100, 1,200 homes. So there'll have to be improvements on Kidd Road and at the Kidd Road Nolensville Road intersection at some point. Yes.
That's also going to be a huge issue for Rutherford County schools. And I know when we had Dr. Sullivan on not that long ago, about 6 months ago, the concern will there be the funding and the bonding in order to build schools to serve that particular area.
That's been a challenge in Williamson County as well.
Sure.
And one of the things that Nolensville has done and is try to keep the school system informed on where developments are occurring in and around Nolensville. And even to the point that such as those 2 that I just mentioned on the
Sure.
northeast corner, as part of their development process, we required them to set aside property for the school system.
Good.
Because the challenge is once the property is there, if the school system's having to purchase it, they're having to purchase at
a top value.
Ridiculously high prices.
Exactly.
And so we sat down with the school system, with both developers, and kind of developed a plan on where a school would go, kind of right in the middle of both of those communities. And so just trying to be proactive.
And it's kind of interesting when people talk about the high cost of housing in California. I chuckle for a bit because the state of California over the years has had huge requirements on subdivisions, dedication of land for schools, dedication of land for parks, certainly dedication of extra right-of-way for ultimate widening of access into the particular community, and all that relates to the price of housing as well as
Yes, it
certainly
does.
building codes to be earthquake resistant and so forth. So when you buy a house in Southern California or anywhere in the state, you're paying for this providing for services. We will be right back with a delightful visit with Victor Lay, the town manager of the beautiful town, I should say, of Nolensville. Stand by.
Support First Shot at Autumn at the Alley. It will be held at Saddle Woods Farm on Franklin Road in Murfreesboro on Wednesday, September 25th from 6 until 9 p.m. It supports First Shot STEM Academy and Academic All-Stars initiatives. The night is a fantastic event with unique tastings from various spirit brands and great wines and food from the Alley on Main. Top the night off with a fabulous silent auction. Go to firstshottn.org for more information and see you at Autumn at the Alley September 25th.
Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
This is Adam Tipton with the Rutherford County Farm Bureau. We would like to show our appreciation to all of our Farm Bureau members by inviting you to our annual membership meeting Thursday, August 15th at the Lane Agri Park, 315 John Rice Boulevard. We will start serving barbecue with all the trimmings at 5 p.m. with the meeting to follow. For information, call 615-893-1213 or visit our website, rcfarmbureau.org.
There are certain sounds that just scream summer, like this one. And this one. And who can forget about these? That's right. It's the sound of players all across the state winning with the new July Instant Games from the Tennessee Lottery. So play today for your chance to win up to $500,000. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? The Tennessee Lottery. Game-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
Hi, this is Bob Cornell, pastor of Covenant Church right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The answer that you've been looking for is found in Jesus and what he accomplished at the cross. You see, Jesus changes lives from the inside out. We would love for you to join us at Covenant Church, located at 1124 Brinkley Ave right here in Murfreesboro. We have services Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. and Tuesdays at 7 p.m. You can learn more about us at our Cornell Ministries YouTube channel. We want you to grow in Christ at Covenant Church.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the law offices of John Day.
I've got pets.
AmeriCare Services Incorporated, family-owned and operated. For residential and commercial customers, we offer a full range of services. Our services include one-time, monthly, and quarterly pest control, termite control, moisture and fungus control, automatic foundation vents, and more. Licensed, insured, and bonded for your protection. 893-7111.
Call the best of the best to get rid of your pets.
AmeriCare Services Incorporated.
Let's check those WGNS Good Neighbor events. Don't forget the Legacy Gathering for the Women's Club of Murfreesboro is this Saturday night from 5 until 8, and that's over at Oakland's Mansion. So let's get behind the Women's Club of Murfreesboro and attend the Legacy Gathering, 5 until 8 this Saturday night at Oakland's Mansion. Coffee and conversation about local history every Saturday morning from 9 until noon at the old one-room Ransom Schoolhouse. This service from the Rutherford County Historical Society is all free, and Ransom School is at 717 North Academy Street. Do you like peach cobbler? The third annual Peach Cobbler Festival is from 9 until 4 Saturday at the Lane Agri Park. This Saturday, Walter Hill Elementary School celebrates its 100th anniversary. If you went to Walter Hill, you need to be there this Saturday from 11 until 1. The classic Arsenic and Old Lace starts next week over at the Center for the Arts in Uptown Murfreesboro. For more Good Neighbor events, check our website, WGNSradio.com.
Rutherford weather.
Skies become mostly sunny this afternoon with a high in the mid-90s. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 71. By Friday, sunshine high around 90 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 76.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric, who offers energy-saving tips during the hot summer months. Change your HVAC filter once a month for more efficient operation. For more tips, go to mte.com/myenergyplan.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Hello again, Bill Krause on the WGNS Thursday morning Roundtable edition. And this morning we are chatting with a longtime friend, one of my most outstanding students in over 50 years of teaching. I will give you that credit. It's out of 26,000 students. And the town manager of the town of Nolensville for approximately the past 3 years. Talk about the police. I have been very impressed with the Nolensville Police Department. Basically, not that they stop me when I drive through the town, but just in terms of contact and so forth. And residents who I do know in Nolensville, if I initially ask them the one question, what really stands out? They say, well, one thing is our police protection. Talk about your police department.
So Nolensville's chief of police is Roddy Parker, and Roddy has a total of 40-plus years of experience. Started out with the Williamson County Sheriff's Department, has been the Nolensville police chief for going on 7 years, and has announced his retirement. In fact, he is retiring at the end of this month.
Must be something in the air.
He is he's ready to hang it up. We'll be having Dale Armour, whom we've hired to come in behind him, and Dale has got about 30 years of law enforcement experience as well, and is coming to us from Algood, Tennessee.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're very excited about that. But the department that Roddy has built has a great core value in it, and they are very community minded. And so when you really think of that phrase, community policing, you really experience that in Nolensville. We encourage our officers to be out, to get to know and work with the business owners and the public. And I would say that our officers have a great relationship with the residents and with the business owners. We try to do a lot of social media so that they get to know those officers in various contexts. And sometimes they're just funny, and they're just, they're just showing the human side of it. And there are times when we have to be all business.
Sure.
And we have such a quality level group that bring a plethora of skill sets into that department. I would say for our size, there's not any better department.
What size is the department?
We have 18 officers and one administrative person right now. We are in the process of looking at trying to find a place and build a police station. Right now, all of that's still contained in Town Hall down on the lower level, and they are bursting at the seams
I understand.
to do that. We have acquired some property off Sunset Road, and this last board voting meeting, they gave us authorization to move forward on design. So we'll be putting out some RFQs and hopefully selecting some architectural firms to move forward in designing a police station. But our officer corps, the values that they have are very, very community oriented.
Well, I always would define an outstanding police officer as a man or woman who has a heart for the victim, a heart for the citizen, yet a head to be able to minimize and resolve crime.
Absolutely.
The heart and the head.
Absolutely.
And you recently, within a reasonable period of time, went from a volunteer to a full-time fire department.
That's correct. We were a all 100% volunteer fire department about 4 years ago. Before I actually came in as the town manager, they had already hired a full-time chief, and he came as a retiree out of Brentwood. Lots of experience, has been a great chief, has really developed the program. We now have I think 16 that of firemen and including the chief all the way up, and a fire marshal as well. And so we're really out there trying to not only establish a shift every day and have full-time folks there every day to run all the calls, but to also once again have a very professional corps. The educational component of those, probably about 75% of our folks already have their bachelor's, some a master's. One has their doctorate in jurisprudence. So a very well-educated group in the fire service. Can't say enough good about them.
And are they still backed by a volunteer team?
We have, yes, we've not gotten eliminated the volunteers. They are still such an important component. And so we, not only do we have some volunteers, we have some part-timers that come and work for us during their off shifts from places like Murfreesboro and Smyrna and all the different groups around. So we really try to look at it as a broad of ability as possible to bring in and have a well-staffed facility.
I always remember the first city that I managed in California. We were a 4-member fire department augmented by a rather large community volunteer service. And any time there was a call for the volunteers, we had a large siren at City Hall that went off, and you could hear it literally throughout the area of the community. And you would see people leaving their stores or even a doctor leaving his practice, and they'd all be running to the fire in their own cars and so forth. And it was really a basic part of the American spirit. And you see the volunteer, they weren't getting paid for it, but it was just to them a commitment and a passion for many of them.
It truly is. What I have noticed in general is that there are fewer volunteers today than there have been in the past. Now, part of that is we hired a lot of them to be our full-timers. But even in trying to build up that volunteer corps, there haven't been as many people that have that spirit of, hey, I want to get out there and do it. And part of that, I think, is because of all the liability and stuff that comes along with it. You now have to have your volunteers trained.
Right.
And so now it's a more than, oh, let me drop what I'm doing. I'm gonna run
Like
over here.
going to Rotary Club or Kiwanis.
Let me run over here and grab a hose and I'll turn on the water for you.
Yep.
You have to go to classes and get certified in areas so that you can be safe and reduce the liability of the town or whomever.
When we're talking about planning and development, which I'm assuming is a major function of the town of Nolensville, would you consider a combination of low, middle, and high density development? Do you have much high density development, or are you preserving the village, the town environment?
So the town historically does not have any, or I'll say has very little of the middle grade of density, which would be, I would classify that as townhomes. There's a couple of sections of townhomes that exist. There are no apartments.
Okay.
However, in our new zoning code, when we sat down and we reevaluated how we wanted the town to grow and how the community, I say we, how the community wanted the town to grow. And it was very much a community-driven effort and discussion, even though the 5 council members, commissioners, were the ones who ultimately voted for it.
Sure.
There was a lot of interest and community input in developing the plan. And there was a lot of tension in developing the plan, but ultimately we got one, and it included all the components, and it recognized that today's society doesn't necessarily always want a single family home with a yard to mow and a house to have to keep up, a big house to have to keep up. They wanted something smaller, and there's lots of trends to not big apartment complexes, but small apartment styled buildings that look more like a manor house or
Correct.
something like that happen to have maybe have 4 to 6 2 or 3 bedroom apartments within a small structure. And so we modified our code to allow a pocket of those. We've actually had one development that has already made it through the entitlement process and will probably break ground sometime in October that's going to have a mixture of those. And theirs is going to be a mixture of live work, where you've got the commercial facility, the commercial establishment on the bottom with a residential unit above it. There'll be some of those smaller apartment styled homes, manor homes, and there'll be some townhomes as well.
Sure.
And it's going to be, actually it's called the Town Square Project.
Oh, okay.
And it's part of it is going to have a town square, which Nolensville has never had.
You know, it's kind of fascinating as you were describing. I sit on 3 HOA boards of directors, and one of the big questions is the person who buys a townhome or a condominium and leases it out, and it becomes an investment property. And even though banks for a long period of time would raise the red flags of what percentage of your community are non-owner or non-owner occupant residents, it develops a real significant aspect in the community when your HOAs, your communities, have now become basically in lieu of apartments. That becomes really a key issue. When you talk about development, do you have some, well, first of all, I'll say your commercial development, you've brought in some really quality and very responsive businesses into the community over the last couple of years.
We've had some great new businesses that have come in. We're really excited about one that's finally broken ground, and that's our Publix development.
Oh, okay.
They broke ground about close to a month ago, not quite a month ago.
Where are they located?
They're in the premier corner of the Rocky Fork Road, Nolensville Road intersection. They're in the southeast corner of that intersection, and as part of it, the Publix will be the anchor. But they have a ring of shops that will front onto Nolensville Road and front onto Rocky Fork Road that will be more of the mom and pop style,
Sure.
smaller styled shops, and be a great pedestrian friendly area. And so we're very excited about it. We're thinking probably within 18 months or so they'll be open.
And here I thought you were going to talk about a new Buc-ee's. Murfreesboro is looking forward to its Buc-ee's.
Yeah, we're probably not going to have Buc-ee's.
Not a Buc-ee's yet, unless you have that bypass, that 6-lane.
Unless there is some major bypass that gets connected to one of the interstates.
Exactly.
We're probably not going to have Buc-ee's.
Parks and recreation. What kind of area are you doing with parks and recreation?
So historically, Nolensville has not owned any of their parks.
Really?
They've all been owned by Williamson County. That's one of the priorities that the current Board of Commissioners has asked to change. And so about 2 years ago, we began a process of acquiring a 3-acre park that was a defunct HOA's old amenities area,
Okay.
with the idea that we would take it and revamp the area. And so they essentially gave it to us. I think we paid like $15,000 in getting the legal fees and what all taken care of. But we've recently acquired that property. We're right now about to go to bid to have the tennis courts that were on there redone. And then we'll also build a nice pedestrian bridge over to it. Ultimately, we think that we'll put a pavilion on there, and then maybe some other facilities later on. That one sits right in the middle of a neighborhood, and while it will become a public park, it's really not what we would consider a regional park.
Sure.
We had the opportunity a couple of years ago to purchase 20 acres right off of Sunset Road, right almost in the corner of Sunset and Nolensville Road. It's just a little bit west of Nolensville Road. And the idea there, part of it's in the floodplain, about half of it, that we will build into a park. And we've got an LPRF grant request out right now for about $1 million in building a nice park there. And then on the front side of that, it's actually where we'd like to locate the police station. And so,
which really creates a safety factor.
It creates a good, safe area, and hopefully, if we have enough room, maybe a library right beside it.
Wow. Prior to our taking a break in a moment or two, one of the things that I have not seen as much in Tennessee as I saw in California, and I thought it was an excellent idea, and in any city that I managed in California, this was a major foundation of our park development and recreational programming, that we had the schools in the city in partnership where a portion of the playground, play area of the school was merged into a neighboring park. So you had the school-park relationship, and you didn't require as much acreage to put playground equipment in your park because you had a relationship with the school.
Correct.
During on-hours and fencing and protection, all had it as an integrated system. Great double use of land.
Well, we're actually doing that in the two subdivisions. The two subdivisions that I mentioned earlier that had reserved the area for the school. The other subdivision has reserved another 10 acres for the park, and so you have the school, which will include a little bit of I'll call it fenced security area for the kids.
Sure.
But even that area is, in working out the arrangements for the school, will be available to the public after school hours. And so you have this park that is right beside the school, so the kids have the ability in supervised events to have the entire park as a play area. And then after hours, the recreational things that are on the school property are then available to the public. So once again, trying to maximize the use of
It's leverage. You're doing leverage. We'll be right back. We're having a delightful visit this morning with the town manager. I've got to keep that in line. The town manager of the town of Nolensville, Mr. Victor Lay, and who is sharing with us today and tomorrow of what Nolensville is. We'll return in a moment.
If you're driving a car or truck with an expired warranty and suddenly lost your transmission or needed a full engine repair, would a $4,000 repair bill leave you stranded? I'm Danica Patrick. Don't get caught off guard with a vehicle breakdown. Choose the company I trust. Endurance. No matter the mileage, if your vehicle is less than 20 years old, Endurance offers auto protection plans for any budget. Protection on the drivetrain, electrical, transmission, AC, and more. Plus 24/7 roadside assistance and rental car reimbursement on any plan. Endurance handles everything from making the claim to paying the certified mechanic of your choice. Act now and get 1 full year of elite benefits, a $2,000 value, free.
Endurance has paid hundreds of millions in claims. Call for your fast free quote today. Call 800-690-0294. That's 800-690-0294. 800-690-0294.
Ascension St. Thomas Heart is the leader in Middle Tennessee for heart care, providing the most advanced options, including heart surgery and transplants. Our nationally recognized cardiac team cares for more adult hearts than anyone in the state, from AFib to heart failure, using minimally invasive options when possible to help shorten recovery, making Ascension St. Thomas Heart your first choice for routine heart care and cardiac emergencies. Schedule a heart screening or find a cardiologist at ascension.org/St. Thomas Heart.
At Middle Point, we want to be part of the solution. That's why we're making significant investments in proactively enhancing our facilities to integrate sustainable solutions.
Mike Klassen with Middle Point Landfill.
We invite you to learn more about us at middlepointlandfill.com.
Middle Point Landfill is an environmentally safe, economical, and reliable solution for solid waste for Rutherford County.
For public services, we are sustainability in action.
This is Kim Dunaway from Sunshine Nutrition Center. You hear me on Monday mornings at 7:20 talking about how to lead a healthier lifestyle. We carry supplements, personal care, and grocery items at both our Murfreesboro and Smyrna locations, family owned and operated since 1989.
At Bud's Tire Pros, we sell all major brands of tires, and we invite you to stop by today for that next set of tires. Or maybe you need us to check out your vehicle before you head out of town. We offer everything from brakes to batteries, alignments, and more. No appointments necessary. Just stop on by.
I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
Putting the big bat in our lineup since 1981.
This is Ben Ingram, and the Atlanta Braves play here. News Radio WGNS.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
This is Bill Krause, third and final segment of the WGNS Roundtable on a Thursday morning. In fact, without localizing it, our weather's going to be extremely nice this weekend. Out of the 90s, back into the 80s. Sounds like a good golfer's...
it's a good time to be outside, that's for
good
sure.
golfer's weekend, because you'll be in the 80s rather than shooting in the 90s. We're with Victor Lay, the delightful town manager for approximately the past 3 years in the town of Nolensville, Tennessee. A town that is, to many of us, we pass through on a daily or weekly or bi-weekly basis. I do have to tell you my all-time favorite story of Nolensville, and I may have said this when we met last time. I don't know if it even had occurred at that time. I come over past the Nolensville Cemetery, right on Nolensville Road. And I shall never forget one morning.
You know, people are just dying to get in there.
Oh, I know. It's the dead center of town. I just remember one morning I came by, and a very, very entrepreneur real estate agent, I think, stuck an open house sign that was pointing to a property for sale, apparently near the cemetery. But the sign was placed right on the side line of the cemetery. And I've never seen a cemetery with an open house sign for it. You know, just drop over and pick your site. And I thought, you know, maybe that was a cemetery issue rather than a very entrepreneur real estate person with his open house sign. You build a new fire station, correct?
We have just completed a new fire station. That's correct. We opened it right at the end of June, and it's a beautiful facility on the north side of Nolensville. Very nice facility.
But the county still has its facility on the south side.
That's correct. The county has actually repurposed that facility.
Okay.
They moved in ambulance service in that, so you have EMS in the old county.
So that's the county providing EMS rather than at this point the town of
That's
Noblesville.
correct.
You don't have an EMS unit.
That's correct.
Good. So the 911 response is still phenomenal.
It's still phenomenal. One of the things that, because of where that station is located, which is also right in that premier corner,
Yes,
they are constantly bombarded by developers going, hey, let us buy this property, let us buy this property. So the county is not necessarily opposed to that, but they would have to have a place that is desirable for them to relocate should they do that. So
is that a possible joint use?
It is. We've had talks with the county. We actually, when we bought the property where our current fire station is located, at the same time we purchased property on the south side of Nolensville for a station number 2 at some point in the future. It's not imminent, quite honestly. It's several years out, but at some point we would know that we would need a presence on the south side. And so we've had some conversation with the county if they needed a place to relocate, that possibly they could, if we went ahead and jointly designed what that property would look like, that there might be an opportunity for them to go ahead and locate there before we get there, and at least gives them presence still on that south side. Those conversations are still ongoing, sure. and there's obviously nothing that has been even remotely decided on any of that, and even once the staff gets finished the conversations,
Yes.
You got to take that up to a whole different level with the elected officials. So none of that's occurred.
Well, being the town manager of a very dynamic community and a community with a great future, what at this stage within the general plan is the ultimate population anticipated for Nolensville as it presently sits on its square miles?
So in the current form, our population could probably be maybe in the high 20s, possibly low 30s, depending on what kind of per capita number you use. And of course, the higher your population typically gets, the moderate number drops back to about a 3, somewhere in that neighborhood. When I was running the calculations as we went through the iterations of the zoning ordinance, every time somebody would propose and it would gain traction to zone a piece of property a certain density, I'd rerun a calculation and say, okay, well, here's what that adds to the potential population. And the town was really specific in trying to keep it to where it wasn't something they didn't want to be a Franklin, they don't want to be a Spring Hill or anything. They want to maintain that small town feel, and so they were very specific to try to create a zoning ordinance that allowed different uses and different types of housing and things like that within the community, but still keep it regulated to where we didn't get overrun. And so somewhere in that high 20s is probably where we'll be.
And you actually take a look, it's almost like supply and demand in a business, that if you have a lower supply, your demand is greater and your value is increased. So if you have a primarily lower density community with acre minimum lots, is what we used to have when I was city manager of Oak Hill. Minimum 1 acre lots, more often 2 acres. Needless to say, it puts the value up dramatically. Provides the general fund taxes. Speaking of taxes, I know a lot of people do understand and realize this, but I always like to reiterate, what is the cost if you went out to buy a new fire truck?
So we just ordered one.
Am I mind reading? Or?
Yeah, we just ordered one. Actually, we ordered it about a year ago.
They take a while to build, yep.
Depending on the company that you get it from, there was one of the companies that had a 4-year backlog.
Wow.
And so we did not go that direction.
Sure.
The one that we purchased still had an 18-month to 20-month backlog. We are expecting that to come in sometime in January.
Is it a full engine?
It's a ladder truck.
Oh, the biggie.
The big one. So we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.2 to 1.4 million
for a vehicle.
For a vehicle.
So if you think that car you're looking at the lot for $30,000-$40,000 is a huge amount, all you got to take a look at is the quote emergency equipment. Even buying your police cars and so forth.
Police cars are very expensive. Just the base vehicle without all the lights and all the pieces that go in it, is in the mid-40s.
Absolutely. Well, which is not really much more than, somebody is going to do. I remember years ago in Los Angeles County, a particular city wanted to save a great amount of money, and they called out for bid on police cars, and they went the smallest possible police car they could have. And a number of their officers were 6 feet or 6'1" or 6'2". And they almost, I don't know if it ever became reality, they almost had a workers' comp claim of a police officer who's spending a full shift bent over in a little car because their height was exceeding the ability for sitting. And you begin to think of things like that. Now, let's go back to your original undergraduate degree. What does it cost today to put in a new traffic signal?
So a new traffic signal.
You have one on the board?
We actually are looking at a number of places for traffic signals. If you're building one from scratch and you're putting in the decorative metal poles that are powder coated black and to make that signal look really, really good. If you're going to do it that way and you've got all four legs, you can easily spend just on the signal itself $300,000 to $400,000.
Wow.
Now there are less expensive alternatives. You instead of poles, you string lines. You can put up wooden poles and put some wire across and hang.
And how does that work? The first windstorm we have.
Well, lots of communities have it. That way, and so they're safe. They handle that way. We actually will look at putting up temporary signals in that manner until we get ready to acquire right of way to put up a permanent signal. Because lots of times when you put up a permanent signal, you're going to be doing roadway improvements as well, putting in turn lanes and things like that. The state of Tennessee is putting one, redeveloping an intersection this fall that's been on the books for about 5 years at the Williams Road, Nolensville Road intersection, Williams-York, Nolensville Road intersection. That, just the city's contribution into that one is close to $600,000-700,000 because of all the roadway improvements. So it's expensive, like everything else.
And you also have to figure that as Nolensville grows and as traffic decides to continually increase on your streets, that your computer systems have to be interconnected with other traffic lights.
That's correct.
I always gave Smyrna, the town of Smyrna, a bad comment, because when you were going on Sam Ridley and you had 4 lights from I-24 east to Montlow State turnoff, the lights were not at all synchronized, and you would finally have the light turn green and you'd move on to the next intersection, it turned red, and you stopped and start, stop and start, and stop and start. And I used to comment that the Smyrna Town Council was primarily doing that to allow motorists to look at the businesses on the side of the road so that they would get a marketing impact. But, just the coordination of the computer system, people don't realize what a detailed system it is, the trips of lights and so forth.
It truly is. And the technology has really evolved over time. It's interesting that you brought up synchronization of those traffic signals. My first experience of that was back when I was in college.
I can imagine.
In Memphis. And they had, the lights were synchronized, but they were synchronized by your drive time and an internal clock in that independent system. They weren't connected. They had just gone in and sequenced every clock to to follow where it should. So if the power ever flickered or went out and those clocks got off, then their synchronization was off.
Oh.
And but there at one time, one of my professors in the civil engineering department there at Memphis State had been involved in that, and they had every light from Germantown, maybe not quite Germantown, maybe Poplar Avenue, all the way to downtown Memphis synchronized, that if you were driving about 33 miles per hour, you would hit every one green all the way down. I don't think I ever experienced quite that, but when you find well synchronized signals, it does move traffic a lot better.
It's so interesting you mentioned that, Victor, because coming from Southern California, if anybody out there is from Southern California, many years ago, I want to say 60 to 70 years ago, Wilshire Boulevard, the main east-west non-interstate thoroughfare that goes from downtown Los Angeles west about 15 miles and ends in Santa Monica at the Pacific Ocean, had synchronization on the lights. And you're right, you could start out at downtown LA they were saying between 34, 35 miles an hour. And if the traffic flowed, it flowed through each light at 35. If you went faster, you'd miss the synchronization. It created great traffic flow, plus the fact of timing of lights. You know, I'm a great light observer, and I see a community where the timing is poor. I mean, they have not gone and looked at the timing and said, why should we have a 2-minute cycle when we could do this in a 1.5-minute cycle? So the whole area of traffic control is certainly key. I couldn't go much.
I'm sorry. Give you kudos to Murfreesboro and Franklin. Both have great traffic management systems. That, as I mentioned before, the technology has changed so much, and so not only do they have all of those signals integrated with each other, they have systems where they can have cameras on the systems, and they can sit in their control room and dynamically alter times based on whatever occurs. So if there is an accident on the interstate and they have to route traffic through part of the community as a bypass, they have the ability in real time dynamically to do that. Where before you were just at the beholding of whatever timing was built into that traffic box. So it's pretty neat, and Murfreesboro in particular has done an amazing job. Franklin is right on the heels of that as well.
One of the most interesting concerns about local, state, and national government, and in this era of elections and political cycles and so forth, we in Middle Tennessee this last week had only a 14% voter turnout for the primaries. Now, mindful that there were not many significantly contested elections in the primaries, but how is your voter turnout normally in Nolensville? That's a symbol of community participation, community interest, and community activism.
It is, and I would say that Nolensville's probably about the same as the areas. I don't know. I was trying to think how many participated in the last election. We're actually doing have a referendum that's going to be on the ballot, and so we're discussing. In order to have this referendum, you have to have enough people sign the petition asking for the referendum. That and I've forgotten now what number that was.
I think it's based on the last
it
election.
Was the last gubernatorial election, and you have to have a percentage of that, something like 10 or 15% of it. And so I want to say that out of that number of voters, you know, we're still a really small minority of individuals that go out and actually participate in the election. When I was the manager at Spring Hill, we were running about an 8%.
Wow.
And you figure that 8% of the voters were electing the officials who were deciding the rules for 100%.
Oh.
And so it was kind of disappointing, but it seems that that's where we are right now.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that Nolensville's population is about 17,000. And if you subtract the amount of people who are registered to vote, and then you subtract the amount of people who have a perchance to vote the last 3 elections, and you cut it down to the numbers, and then you say only technically need 51% to be elected, you're talking a handful of people who will determine who the leaders are. And not just Nolensville. You can march this up all the way to the White House.
That's correct.
And give a shout out to your members on the town council. These are people that, you know, you can have likes and dislikes, you can love and dislove your elected officials, but these are people that do dedicate far more than just showing up at a town council meeting.
They really do. Nolensville is blessed to have 5 really good council people. They don't always agree.
Which is true.
They have topics that they are diametrically opposed to each other on, but they are always able to discuss that issue. and then vote accordingly. And they obviously they don't always agree in their votes, but we move forward. Our mayor, Haley Gallick, is a newcomer to politics, not a newcomer to municipal business, but she's a newcomer to the politics. She's done a great job. Derek Adams, who sits on our council as one of the commissioners, was the mayor. Our form of government, they revote the mayor from among themselves every 2 years. And so Haley is the mayor for this current term. Derek was the mayor of the prior term. He's chosen not to run again, but he had been on the board under the former style of government. And so he's been an elected official. I think we'll be wrapping up something like 8 years of being an elected official. Has had a great vision in his mind of what the town should become and the way it should go. Joel Miller has been on the board for about 4 years. I've not heard him say whether or not his position's up for re-election. Not heard him say if he's going to be running again. And then we have also got 2 other newcomers that have been there for 2 years. Jessica Salamita, who is our vice mayor, and Kate Kortner, who is another one of the commissioners.
So 3 of your town council are women.
That's correct.
That's fantastic.
That's correct. Our mayor and vice mayor, both female, they do a great job. They are interested every day of what is going on and the decisions that they make, how they are impacting. They come in, they have conversations with staff to try to understand the issues. So I really can't say enough good about our elected officials as a whole. And even when they disagree, one of the great things is that they understand that staff is trying to maintain as neutral a position as possible on those disagreements. We're responsive to each, and so when they're really disagree with one another, they still don't bring that into the staff, and of course we really appreciate that. But that also, it leads to ultimately to reasonable decision making.
I was sharing this experience last week when we had Murfreesboro Vice Mayor Bill Shacklet on, and it's one experience that I always remember as a city manager back in California. And I remember I had 2 council members, thought the world of them, long-time service, but they never got along at the council table. And one day I took them out to lunch, and I said, would you switch chairs? You sit across from me, you sit to my left. And they did, and they suddenly became great friends. Turned out one was hard of hearing in his left ear, and the other was hard of hearing in his right ear. And the way they were sitting at the council seat was their bad ears were reflecting each other, so they never heard each other. So I said, would you guys mind changing seats at the next council meeting? From then on, they were phenomenal as working together. So you never know what you're dealing with, and that's the fun of public service. For the young men and young women, or not always just young men and young women, at any age, it's a great calling, the satisfaction, the results, and the response. Victor Lay, thank you for being with us this morning. People of Nolensville can be very proud of their town manager. I'm very proud of one of my top graduates way back in 2008, 2009, if those years kind of put together. And we hope to have you back again with an update of your beautiful city.
Thank you very much. I have enjoyed being here.
Yes, and we will see you all, or have you all listen, next Thursday on the 16th of August.